Action. Welcome to another episode of the Captains and Coaches podcast. Today I sit down with Brad Kennington, licensed marriage and family therapist. He has over 25 years of experience and specializes and is nationally recognized for his work with male eating disorders. He's worked with Olympians, professional athletes, Division I athletes, and beyond. We sit down and we get into the family systems and how Brad's understandings of family dynamics carry over to athletics. This is by far one of the richest, most exciting conversations that I've had. I did not want it to end. We talk about the relationship with sport, athlete to sport, and how having fun is so important, whether you're a kid all the way up to Olympian, and so much more. We also deep dive into his special work with male eating disorders. If you're working with athletes, if you're a parent, this is an extremely valuable episode, and we certainly will have Brad back on the show. Until then, I'm excited to hand it off to him. Here we go. Ready, and break. Welcome to the show. Thank you for coming out to Dripping Springs.
Glad to be here. Beautiful out here.
Yes, the hill country is something else. I'm here for life, so I'm happy to be here.
Nice.
Give us a elevator pitch.
Mm-hmm.
So you've had a fun journey in your career, and now you're doing awesome things with University of Texas and beyond. So I want to paint that picture of your journey and where you stand today.
I mean, you may start back in undergrad.
Sure.
So I went to school at UT. Undergrad was more of a pre-law there. Interested in going to law school, obviously. From 8th grade through UT, I wanted to be an attorney. Finished UT, spent 6 years working at the Capitol in Austin as a chief of staff for a state representative. I guess halfway through there, halfway through my term there, I realized law may not be for me.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of an identity crisis of sorts. And then shifted gears completely, went into grad school, did not go to law school, went to grad school instead. And original interest was wanting to work with children who were going through a traumatic grief. So like maybe a loss of a parent, sibling, even a pet. I was really fascinated by their resiliency, how children are resilient and they move through that. So most of my formal training is working with children. So I'm trained as a child therapist. Working at an agency for a year, exactly a year after grad school. During that year, 9/11 happened. The economy tanked. I'd gone in on a 3-year grant, year 3 of a 3-year grant. So when my year was up, there was no money left to fund the grant. My position was eliminated because the economy was just in shambles. So I went kicking and screaming to a intensive outpatient clinic in Austin that specialized in eating disorders. And I say kicking and screaming because I had no interest in grad school and working with eating disorders. Zero, none. And so I went kicking and screaming, was there maybe 5 or 6 weeks because it was a cash pay clinic. And of course, in a very weak economy, people were using their insurance.
Right.
So she brought on 3 therapists and she had let go 2 of us because there's no money. But I was there for about 5 or 6 weeks, long enough to have a new interest spark. And I was really interested in what's going on in these family systems. I'm trained as a marriage and family therapist. So I was really fascinated by what's going on in these families where one or maybe more than one person, they're throwing up, they're starving. Now, what's going on here?
Yeah.
So I took that new interest and wedded it with an existing interest of wanting to work with guys. And then so I started working with body image issues and eating disorders with guys. And I got on the ground floor of that. I just took off.
Yeah.
And so then guys tend to use exercise as a gateway into eating disorders where, females traditionally tend to use dieting. Does it mean that females can't use exercise and guys can't use dieting? But the more traditional gateways are girls and women tend to use dieting as the gateway, and guys tend to use exercise. That got me seeing athletes, folks who are more exercise oriented, athletic, club sports. My youngest eating disorder client was also a soccer player at age 9. and he was the restrictor.
Wow.
Yeah. So one thing led to another. I joined a psychiatrist. I took my solo practice, merged it with the psychiatric practice here in town to help them develop their eating disorder practice area. Was there exactly a year. Left there to be an executive director of a treatment center just outside of Georgetown.
Mm-hmm.
It was a 14-bed facility. It was an overnight facility. Um, Another great recession that happened. The company was had basically was being funded by private equity, and
Mm-hmm.
then when the financial markets were collapsing in 2007 to, I guess, 2008, the private equity firms wanted their money back, and it was kind of like a house of cards.
Yeah.
And so then the company no longer exists. So they closed, laid us all off. So here we go again. Um, and so I went back into private practice, and then I was recruited to come on board with an existing day hospital. It's called a partial hospital program um, in Westlake, part of Austin, West Austin. And I was their executive director for right at 4 years, and
Nice.
then left there and went back into private practice. Since then, I have, because I do some contract work with University of Texas Athletics. I have my own private practice. I do some consulting work with treatment centers in the area for eating disorders as well.
Mm-hmm.
So um, that's where I am.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, eating disorders with male athletes, that is something interesting that is directly connected to that
That
behavior.
was, yeah, I'm talking to you today about sports because
Yeah.
of my interest in working with eating disorders with guys.
Yeah.
And there are certain sports that are higher risk. And so, like anything with endurance, you think swimming, running, cycling, and then diving. Again, I've seen eating some guys with eating disorders in these non-traditional sports as well too. But certain sports are higher risk.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was because of eating disorders that I'm now talking with you about sports. So here I am.
Been a long road, but it's
Very very
it's
circuitous, very
it's all
challenging.
connected.
Yes.
And you said 9 years old, that's the youngest, but then there's issues leading up to even adults still challenging here. So former athletes, I imagine, but then the behavior is still embedded somewhere, and they still coming to you for help.
Yeah, and um, in some of these athletes, guys I worked with, even female athletes, it's the sport culture can serve as a petri dish of sorts.
Mm-hmm.
Some sports are, like I said, are higher risk for developing these things. Also, certain uniforms are more revealing. That can definitely trigger body image. You think of swimming.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a perfect storm scenario. For instance, you've got a very revealing uniform coupled with high endurance.
Yeah.
So now it doesn't mean everybody who's in that sport has any sort of body image issues. No, but if you're predisposed to it, if you've got the temperament, so there's definitely a genetic component to eating disorders, and the genetic component is the temperament. So you think of a personality type, somebody who is very sensitive, perfectionistic, very
Mm-hmm.
driven, people pleasing, more prone for anxiety. You take that personality type and you put them in certain environments, including a particular sport. It can pop.
Yeah.
So
And
it will, but it can.
a lot of those are praised, those character traits.
Yes, yes, in our society in general. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's the comments are, you look great because you've lost weight, all these charged comments in our society.
And are eating disorders, are they typically connected to an event? So something that sparks and then you're
Great
using this
question.
to endure?
There's, it's not my quote, but one of the researchers, he likes to say, I can't think of the guy's name, but he's I think out in California. Not my quote. He goes, genes load the gun and the environment pulls the trigger.
Well, I like it.
And so I like to think in terms of, like, say a bag of popcorn. So you throw a popcorn bag in the microwave, you hit it for 2 minutes, whatever. Some kernels pop immediately. Some take a minute. Some take a minute 30. Some never pop.
Mm-hmm.
But think in terms of, some people may have the temperament, and there can be an event and they don't develop eating disorder, or they may develop disordered eating and they move through that without developing a full blown eating disorder.
Mm-hmm.
Some pop early. Some it could be just one comment from a parent, a peer, a coach. and boom, it pops. Some it may take years of that,
Yeah.
but there's definitely an environmental piece to this. There's the 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 temperament, the personality, which is the genetic component, and then
Mm-hmm.
you put that type of personality in particular a culture or a context or an environment, including some sports, and it can pop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I focus a lot of time on transition periods for athletes. So
Mm-hmm.
whether that's eighth to ninth grade, JV to varsity, and then the biggest jump that we see, high school to college
Yeah.
in terms of
Yeah.
performance.
Well, you just a key word there is transition. So transitions are often a period, a context in which these things occur.
Mm-hmm.
And so we see a lot of them happening with adolescents and young adults. They're going from middle school to high school to college, college to the real world, so to speak.
And then by the time they're sitting with you, something's already full blown. They
Yeah.
need assistance.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, sometimes it's disordered eating. Sometimes it's just body image. The foods, they're playing with the food. So eating disorders occur on a spectrum.
mhm.
So, but yeah, I've seen the whole spectrum as far as severity and also types.
So then what are some early signs that people can aim to look for behavior wise from an external perspective?
I think over exercising,
Over exercising?
cutting calories, weighing yourself, body checking, body checking excessively.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a parent or a loved one, listening for comments of I'm fat, I need to lose weight, comparing one's body to somebody else, like on social media or other athletes. Just listening for these weight comments, these body image appearance comments around being very self-critical.
Mm-hmm.
If it's skipping meals, eating what's it called clean. How does it tickle us? Okay, if you're not eating clean, what are you eating? Dirty? Because I don't want to eat food off the fork. But you think of just the clean quote clean eating is just super super healthy. Whereas I like to say there's no unless there's a medical issue like diabetes or celiac disease or food allergy, severe food allergy, there is
Mm-hmm.
no quote bad food. And so when you hear people talk about, oh, that's bad for me, or this is good, this is healthy, this is bad, again, that kind of, when you start putting in values to food, that can be a red flag. Now, again, it doesn't mean you got a full blown eating disorder. Also, if you know someone going to the restroom quickly after they eat,
Yeah.
it's a sign, or you've been taking a shower. You see food wrappers in your child or your loved ones, stuff somewhere in the closet or in the bedroom. They may be binge eating.
All right.
So all these could be signs. It's smoke, but it doesn't mean there's a fire. But it's worth exploring. You smell smoke, you try to figure out what the source is. It doesn't mean it's a 5 alarm fire and panic and evacuate the house. But go look for the source
Yeah.
and ask some questions. Hey, what's going on here?
And then is that simple a question? Like, what are some
So
ways that
I've
parent?
I've noticed that when you go to the restroom and you're eating. But I noticed when you go to the restroom, take a shower, or when you sit to eat, I found some extra, allow some wrappers in your bedroom. You're making some comments about your body appearance. You're on a diet. You're not eating. Something's going on.
Yeah.
And just come at it from a place of love and concern, not shaming, not eat this kid. No.
Yeah.
It's okay. What I've noticed is what's going on. And just being curious, being kind and curious.
And then, I mean, from a college level perspective, there's so much autonomy. You are a professional athlete, especially now, NIL, they're getting paid. So it's, I imagine, a lot easier because your roommates don't care about you as
Well,
much.
and I've also worked with folks in their had a professional athlete in his mid 30s, I think, a while back. And with guys, actually, research shows that guys are usually sicker when they medically more compromised when they seek treatment, and a lot of that is because of the shame of having a quote female problem, and so it lingers on, and so sometimes they'll have injuries because of their sport
Mm-hmm.
because they let this thing go on and on and on, and by the time they do get help, they're either compromised medically or they're injured because they're just doing too much. physically.
Yeah, not getting sometimes food they
Right.
need to recover and repair.
It's all about fuel, exactly, fuel for and fuel after.
Yeah. So that then, I mean, with the tools that you have in place to then rehab and recover, what are some of the same tools that we can aim to instill early, but then really have an awesome effect on performance positively just with the mindset? Because adversity's it's coming in sports.
Yes, it is.
So what are some of the tools that you apply to help athletes return that we can get there early?
One of the big things I ask is, are you having fun in your sport? Rena, I was having coffee with a colleague of mine recently. He was talking about um, the studies that come out of Norway and how Norway, they do not even rank athletes till they're 13. 12 and under, they're like, we don't even, some sports they don't even keep score. So the focus is fun. It's about team building. It's about growing physically and mentally.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about competition. And then this friend of mine was telling me that that they do so well in the, of course, Winter Olympics because they're north. And you can't help but wonder if, what part does their success in the Winter Olympics, how is that connected to how they are teaching kids early on about how to have a relationship to their sport?
Mm-hmm.
All the pressure's off.
Yeah.
You're there just to have fun. Forget the number. That is fascinating to me because then he was saying, look how successful Norway has been within the Winter Olympics. And again, there's got to be some real connection there.
Mm-hmm.
So at 13, they're going to be teenagers and then to adulthood. They had this mindset about what it means to have a healthy relationship to their sport.
Mm-hmm.
And, if you have a healthy relationship to your sport, you're relaxed, you're having fun. And then when we're relaxed and having fun, what is our, what do we feel like in our bodies? They're more relaxed, they're
Yeah.
looser. And a relaxed, loose body performs better.
Time out. Let's take a break from this episode to talk about the Old Bull training program. Leading by example is not optional. This program is engineered to eliminate excuses. It's a flexible, choose-your-own adventure program that leans into inherent periodization principles. You have 2 required days a week that are split into a push and a pull. From there, if you have the time and the energy, we can tackle 2 cardio days and 2 strength and conditioning bodybuilding days. This is a fun program that works around your schedule that puts you in a position to look the part so then you can confidently lead the part. This is for you, the seasoned leader, and I'm excited for you to give this a 7-day free trial and join one of the fastest growing programs on Train Heroic. Click the link in the show notes. Now let's get back to the episode. Ready, and break.
Spent the last year deep diving into the social emotional development of kids from walking to 11. So physical I had a good picture of, but then just that social emotional, and then keeping their attention during practice, if you will. It simply came down to fun equals focus. This is how I would coach coaches.
Yeah.
If we're not having fun, they're not focused. Doesn't matter what you're saying as a coach.
Yeah, you're right.
You're talking to yourself at that point.
Absolutely.
So keeping it engaged will help them get engaged. And
Yeah, I tell athletes I work with that, it's hard, it's competitive, you've got to make sacrifices, but if overall you're not having fun, you're probably done.
mm-hmm.
If it's not fun, you're probably done.
Yeah, even at that lower age, if they are not having fun with baseball, don't force baseball.
Don't force it.
Let's find a different
Don't
sport.
force it.
See what
Or different
clicks.
activity. Maybe they don't like sports and they're going to go into the more of the arts.
Yeah.
Acting, for instance, theater.
There you go. Well, then they should play soccer. There's a lot of drama in there. What was interesting, I did a lot of research. Again, Europe has an awesome model for coach development because I was building a communication and professional development path for coaches and came upon how Germany does soccer. So what they do, you start at the tip of the spear as a soccer coach because you're working with professional athletes who are
The top of the spear means what?
the Olympic level professional.
You start there.
You start there because those are the most coachable athletes.
Okay.
So you're less skilled, they're incredibly coordinated, and so you start to pick up your hours working with professional athletes, and then you work your way down the pyramid. And then the highest level, this is in Germany, the highest level of coaches are working with the youth. And this is why they're so perennial within the World Cup. Because they understand the skills and where they're going, but they work their way down the ladder. And if we look at youth sports in America, dad is coach until you hand them off to seventh grade football. That middle school transition periods, that's where the kid athlete transitions to a professional coach who is within the school ranks.
Let me ask you, so at the Olympic level, you have a green coach, very green, very brand new. Do those Olympic athletes have respect for the coach?
Well, I haven't been in that locker room, but I imagine this is the way it is. So you still have your Olympic level coaches, but then I'm assisting, I'm helping, I'm gaining the experience and the hours. So they invest a lot of the perspective in hours. So how much time did you spend at this level? You need X amount of hours plus formal education to then work your way down the ladder.
Then once you get down the ladder, then what? Do you work your way back up, or what is it? What do you?
I imagine you find what best suits you and your skill set. But then if certain grades for your professional level, you're C, D, and it goes down, and then I'm certified to work at this level.
That's fascinating. I'm always curious, how do these different countries and cultures discover that? Because that is that's the antithesis of what we do here in the States.
Which blows my mind.
Exact opposite.
Where they need it the most, a skilled coach that then keeps it fun, then understands focus and attention, but also the social, emotional, the physical development.
Yeah. So they're going down the ladder versus going up the ladder.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's all interesting. It's even what we do. So they're switched on parents that do it well, and then there's a lot that do not, that then plant the seed that imagine a lot of the athletes that you're working with, you're pulling weeds up from seeds that were planted years ago.
Yes, and there's a correlation between that and also working with eating disorders. So it's the same dynamic. You hear something is said, it sticks. Some criticism about performance, about appearance, and it sticks, and it metastasizes. And then they develop this narrative out of that, and then believe that story they're telling themselves. And then if they have experiences to validate it, they start connecting all the negative experiences and say, see, told you, Brad. And what I do is I come back and say, well, okay, you've got these negative experiences. You got this comment, and then it's metastasized. And so putting that comment in context, like who said it?
Yeah.
Consider the source. And then pulling back and seeing a broader perspective. Okay, you've had some negative experiences, some good days, some bad days. Okay, but where also are the positive experiences, the successes. So, with the way our brains work, it's so easy to find the negative.
Yeah, negativity bias.
And that's about survival. So our brains are wired to expect the worst, to expect the negative.
Yeah.
Our ancestors eons ago, when they're walking out in the woods, and our ancestors who heard a rustling in the leaves, they thought the worst case scenario. That's a bear, saber-tooth tiger, get the hell out. That's why we're here, because they expected the worst. And so we inherited that negative software, that negative thinking, that type of software. Those people who were out in the woods, in the wilderness, and the caves and whatnot, they heard some rustling. Oh, that's a little Bambi. I'll go check it out. It's a rabbit. Well, it may be a Bambi or a rabbit. But if it wasn't, they're gone.
Right.
And then their lineage is gone. So at its most primitive level, negative thinking is about survival. And so having to come in here and kind of reprogram thinking. It's like, hey, here are the negatives, but I'm a big butter. Yeah, but looking at also all the positives. And that then develops a more realistic story.
Yeah.
But especially if there's a lot of negatives clustered toward recently, then that becomes so powerful. But pulling it back and seeing the broader perspective.
Yeah, and I mean, from the athlete's perspective, it's the authority, it's the coach that comes in, and then effectively how that is delivered. But it's also
The how's incredible. Yeah.
what else happened that day.
Hmm.
So then, from a parenting perspective, and then this is communicating to a lot of parents, and then diving into the research, and they're all worried: am I going to be perfect? Well, research shows
perfect. Yeah.
30%. You have a 30% window of 70% grace, 30% if you're going to be on in training behaviors, reinforcing and building them up. That's going to be a pretty good grace period. So 30%. So then within the coaching, now if I'm not getting my lessons at home, now I only spend 4 hours a week with a coach. I mean, those words are even more powerful.
Yep.
So that weight.
Yes, and that's the context in which these comments come from.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm always looking, okay, who said it, what was going on, and is it true? Yeah.
So funny you mentioned that's a perspective. I listened to an interview with Charles Barkley, freaking the man.
Mm-hmm.
So way back in his first year in his professional athlete career, so he was drafted by the 76ers, and on his team was Dr. J. And so
Some talent.
yeah, Barkley would he'd read the newspapers. So they didn't have social media, but he would read what the sports writers and all the towns had to say about him, and he would take offense to it because he took it personally and internalized it. And then Dr. J's approach, because it would bother him and affect his play. So Dr. J, being a mentor, stepped in and asked him a simple question: is it true? So then Barkley, being a coachable guy, took that, and then anytime he read anything, he would ask himself, is this true or not? If it's not true, I'm not going to get flustered and let it affect me.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, if it is true, I'm going to improve on that skill.
Yeah, looking at criticism as feedback.
Mm-hmm.
Mistakes, failures, I'm all about failing forward. Looking at a failure, a mistake, criticism as feedback. At least, failure as feedback. I'm always talking and always tell athletes, keep it a verb. You failed. It doesn't mean you're a failure.
Yeah.
Once you make it a noun, you've internalized it. But yeah, looking at it for feedback. And is this true?
Yeah. And that becomes the narrative. If I'm a failure, I'm a loser.
And that's all in all aspects of our life. We gravitate toward the negative. Boom, we start connecting those negative dots, and boom, there it is. That's the story.
Yeah. Tough to unwind all that. So then where does it start? Is it helping the coaches change, or helping the kids understand that when they give you feedback, fast feedback, it's for the better?
I think it's both and. I think it's teaching coaches how to give constructive feedback. I've been an executive director of 2 treatment centers, and I've had to hire and fire. And so couching constructive feedback with some positives. I think there's a Gottman is a couples therapist. I believe he said, I think this is true, that for every negative comment you hear from a partner, you need 5 positive to help neutralize it. I think it's 5 to 1. And so if you're given constructive feedback, and especially to a young person, they don't have the brain, the maturity to process it.
Mm-hmm.
To go, okay, this is about my behavior. I'm not my behavior. I can improve. Again, they're sponges.
Yeah.
And they take everything in and they believe it. And how you give feedback to a kid is crucial. And so if you've got some constructive feedback, I would couch it with some compliments. This is what you're doing right. Start there.
Start with positive.
I'm noticing this. You've improved here. You're doing well here. Let's look at this, though. How about this? We need to work on this.
Mm-hmm.
Then you end it with, okay, but you're doing really well here and here and here. Because you want them to hear it.
Yeah.
Like when I was a director, if I came in and said, "Yeah, this isn't doing well. This is going. You're off here. You're not good here. You're not good here." They're not going to hear my feedback because they're going to get defensive.
Yeah. Walls come up.
Walls come up, and I need them to hear my feedback so they can change their behavior at work to improve. Same thing with a coach, to even a kid or whatever age of athlete is. Encouragement is huge, and so looking at where they have been successful, so then you're already beginning to see the bigger picture here. You're not just looking at the negative, so you're already helping them pull back and see the positives
Yeah.
and see where they are successful, and that engenders hope.
And how important is it to close that feedback loop? So how can a coach ask them to basically repeat it back? What did you hear?
I draw there. I say, "What did you hear me say?" Yeah. I used to do couples. I don't see many couples anymore, and so, but I would, if I'm having a couple in the session, I would say, "What did you hear me say? What did you hear him say? What did you hear her say?" If I'm going to ask, like, "What did you hear me say?" And the coach, "Hey, what did you hear me say?" Not a shaming way, but hey, I want to make sure that you heard me because the burden's on me. If I need you to hear something, the burden's on me to communicate in a way that you hear it. And I might say, "Hey, what did you hear me say?" "Well, I heard this." I said, "Well, yes, but I also said this," or "I didn't really say that. That wasn't my intention."
Yeah, intent versus impact. So
Yeah.
that's a lot of time when I'm shaping and helping coaches understand, asking them what they meant, because it often is aggressive, it's fast.
It's more out of frustration.
Yes, because they're tired of repeating themselves,
Sure.
and then
I
they're
get it.
holding they're holding that against the athlete.
Well, and oftentimes, if we're frustrated and we're trying to give somebody feedback, and we've given us feedback, a lot, it's so easy to project our feelings onto them.
Uh-huh.
And as soon as you do that, oftentimes it's going to be negative feelings, and so they're not going to hear it. They're going to get defensive. They're going to have all these negative feelings. Um, just yeah, how you deliver it is crucial.
Yeah.
How do you package it?
Yeah. For a coach, there's different stages. So we got training, that's weight room, it's summer, we're far away from season. So then it's intensity is down. So then I'm delivering feedback in a more of a teaching sense and mentorship. And then we start to get into specific practices where coaches are perfectionists. We want it this way. And this is where there's a big jump in my feedback. It's coming fast versus how it's going to be in a game, which is it's going to be. So coaches miss that transition from teacher, we're having fun, lots of banter, to then perfectionism that they expect in a game. So practice is this opportunity to mix if I time block a practice appropriately, I can intentionally apply fast feedback similar to a game situation, but then I always come down after that and give them a mentorship moment. Because in games, emotions are way too high after, even in halftime or when I make a mistake or even after the game, for them to be a mentor moment.
What are mentor moments?
They're in listening mode. So I need to make sure that they're in receiving mode. Otherwise, I can't shape the behavior, the action, the performance. So it's a wellness check of how they're doing. If they're in receiving mode, if they're not, okay, we're going to check back in. And then so mentor is I suppose low stress, reflective.
Okay.
Versus if we're and this is lacrosse, it's a continuous game versus football, which is like play, rest, play, rest. If I'm shouting one thing, setting them free, but then we got to transition to the other side, defense.
Yeah.
There's nothing I can say or do. It's just give them the direction, see how they do, and then either a mental note or an actual note in a notebook to check back in to make that correction.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, just looking and differentiating coaching to me, coaching, teaching, and then mentoring. So above all that becomes connection, because without relationship, I got no
Absolutely.
rules.
Absolutely. I mean, I've been doing some reading on leadership within teams, and players need buy-in.
Yeah.
And when you as a coach have conveyed to them that you got their back, that there's an us, and I'm part of this us, then you'll have more buy-in.
Hmm.
And so knowing that they trust you, respect you, well, trust starts with trust.
Yeah.
Because you're in a position, you as a coach, you're in a position of power. And how do you use that power?
Hmm.
Are you more authoritarian or authoritative? Authoritarian uses fear,
Yeah.
shame. Authoritative is going to be direct, but there's also going to be encouragement,
Hmm.
um, looking at what needs to improve, but also look what's going well. An authoritative voice is a voice that I think will um, garner more respect
Hmm.
and trust. It all starts with trust.
Yeah.
Do you trust this coach? This coach has got your best interest. Is this trust in your corner? Is this coach in your corner?
That's huge. And I mean, far too much at the high school level, we see the authoritarian. Do you feel that's a lack of ability to connect,
I think it's
or
anxiety driven.
anxiety driven? My job depends on me winning.
Yeah, I think any of us can become authoritarian or authoritative. And like even when I step back and think back when I was leading different treatment centers, I could slip into an authoritarian mode. Just do this.
Hmm.
And 9 times out of 10, if not 10 times out of 10, I was anxious. Things weren't going well. I had to report to the board of directors. I mean, I needed this to change quickly, or I needed to pivot do something different. And based on my mood, based on everything, including so much of it is I think is also anxiety driven. When we get anxious, we need results.
Yeah.
And I get coaches at high school and collegiate, professional. And we'll look at middle school, high school, and collegiate. These are kids.
Yeah.
And your job, when you can pay the mortgage, the rent, your car payment, depends on the actions of those kids.
Yeah. A lot of my former college teammates are all, not all, but a lot are college coaches, Division One, Division 3,
Mm-hmm.
and they're constantly just scratching their head. Okay,
Yeah.
I've got kids, so my livelihood
Uh-huh.
is determined by the actions of an 18-year-old.
Yep. Yep. So to the coach, I think you chose this. You chose this. And so you want that kid, 18-year-old, 16-year-old, whatever, to perform a certain way. So you need him or her to hear your feedback.
Hmm.
How you give them feedback is going to impact how they play, and how they play is going to impact your job.
Hmm.
So oftentimes it's if you're a coach and you're just had a rough day, you're sick of watching all these drop balls, and you want to give feedback, I would encourage a coach, you know what? Take a break. Before you engage, you reset. It's kind of like couples therapy, before you give feedback to your partner and you're angry, you're hurt, you're pissed off, you might not want to engage them.
Except in sports, you can just go make the kids run while you take a breath.
So it's
I don't know
punitive.
if it's going to work in a relationship.
It's punitive. What? We call it,
All right, water break.
yeah. That's when you call a divorce attorney. But it's, delivery is everything.
Hmm.
And do you want to punish them? You want to train them. You want to discipline. But when you become more punitive, I mean, being punished versus discipline. In discipline,
Yeah.
you're shaping a behavior,
Hmm.
and you can do it You can do it directly, do it firmly, but respectfully. Punishment is about power.
That's another thing I come in with, punishment. And yeah, I've been on different teams every few years, mix up teams. And then again, this is fun for me, is seeing coaches and how they're using absolutes. They're using running as punishment. versus conditioning. I call it punishment.
Punishment.
Because I have prescriptions for running. It's not just running to run.
Yeah.
We're
It's part
at
of
this
training.
stage of the season, etc.
Yeah.
So then helping them understand that this is a tool. So then if we start to lean into running as punishment,
Yes.
we lose the
Yes.
passion, we lose the intent.
Yes. It's like when I've had a couple of dogs, got one right now, and then I read about training puppies. I've had 2 puppies. Is you don't want to use their crate as punishment. You want them to look at their crate as a safe place, their home, safe. And when I was trying to house train my puppies in the past, I would never put them in the crate.
Mm-hmm.
I'd put them like in a room like this. You know, you could be 5 seconds or 10 seconds, whatever, how old they were as puppies. You don't want to take a safe space and make it something negative.
Mm-hmm.
And so you take running, kind of the same concept. Yes, running is definitely part of training and conditioning, but you take that and you weaponize it. Now it's not a safe. It doesn't feel good.
No. And then
Screw this. And
off
then,
season, they're not going to want to do it.
Exactly. But you need them to do it. But now you've taken something. Now you've shoved them in the crate. They acted out. They peed on the carpet, and you throw them in the crate. Like now, what does that puppy do? Oh, that crate is negative. It's not fun. I don't enjoy this crate. But if you need your puppy to stay in the crate for safety reasons, you're going to leave, walk outside for whatever. Then that puppy is going to, whine and howl.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's the same concept here, is taking something that is, what could be fun, but also at best neutral. It has to, it's part of the training process.
Mm-hmm.
And now you've just, like I said, you've weaponized it. Like, oh, I'm not going in there. It becomes a crate that you've made a bad spot punishment.
Yeah. A lot of the challenge is helping coaches become self-aware of the absolutes, of their use of tools like conditioning and running. So a couple of my targets in the beginning are how they're saying things. We don't do this. Okay, well, let's start with what we do.
Yeah. Affirmative. Keep it
Yeah,
affirmative.
affirmative. That's a good way to put this. So simple things like that. No absolutes, because we never know, because the game's so creative, and the affecting the use of but. I want to eliminate that and introduce and to them, because it's so continuous, and then that helps affect absolutes.
Where I do use buts is, okay, I can't do this. I can't do this. Yeah, but you did this last week.
For athletes, yeah. So then I use a lot of humor to break down versus the power games and authoritarian.
Humor is very disarming.
Yeah,
It's very disarming.
especially with the kids. If it's a coach, I do self-deprecation with the kids, having fun, and I always hear I can't. So then, well, we don't use the C word. C word's a bad word. So then they immediately think something negative, C word, and then I just say, yeah, we don't say can't.
What do you say?
I need to work on that, or I'm still working on that, because then if they say I can't use my left hand, and lacrosse uses right and left hands, if I can't use my left hand, that's the story they're telling themselves. I want you to use it and suck in practice.
Let's try it.
So then you're not afraid of it when we need it in a game.
Yeah. I like it. So you're not afraid of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that C word's a big one for especially stepping into a new team.
Mm-hmm. Do you also hear kids say, I should do this, I should. That can be pretty loaded too. And so what I'll tell athletes is, okay, because if you should do something and you don't do it, then right next, what follows should is usually shame.
Ooh, that's a quote. I'm gonna write that down.
Shame will follow should. If you don't do what you should do, shame follows should. So I say, okay, take the should language and say, I could do that.
Mm-hmm.
I could do that. I should do that versus I could do that. Should is very judgmental. There's an expectation, but is it? Is that expectation realistic or not?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
so that may be, but especially if you're learning a new skill, a new technique. I should do this. I should say, wait, I could. Takes the pressure off.
Yeah.
Pressure comes down. Our body's still more relaxed, and our body's more relaxed. They play better.
Yeah. And they, in line with, we don't do that. That's the same as let's
Here's what we
present
do.
them with, this is who we are. This is what we do. Versus no.
It's like in relationship therapy. I always say, instead of saying to someone what you don't want them to do or how you to stop this, ask them what you're wanting.
Mm-hmm.
What do you need? What are you put in the affirmative?
Yeah. And also replacing unhealthy behaviors with a healthy opportunity
Yeah,
can go a
to
long
try
way.
and fail. Okay?
Yeah. There is no failure, only feedback.
Failure's feedback.
I did want to. This is a challenge I seem to run into a lot over 15 years of coaching. Parents. It's evolved from
Yes.
a helicopter parent who's always over. They're involved. They're attending practice. To then a lawnmower parent. I call this lawnmower because they're mowing down all the problems, clearing out the path for success for their kid. So then when they do get to college,
They're overwhelmed.
They don't know what to do, or professor hates me, coach hates me, because they're starting for the first time to give them criticism. And then you introduced a new term to me, lighthouse parent.
That article we read,
Yeah. So parenting, what is the scope? Like, what are some of the conversations that you have with kids about parents?
Oftentimes they will project parenting stuff onto coaches. Coaches will oftentimes project parenting stuff onto the players.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm with a coach. So if you came to me, I said, okay, how I'm looking at two things with you. I'd be saying, how have you been coached in the past? And also, how have you been parented?
Yeah.
Because our parents are the first experience we have on this planet with people in close relationships who have power over us. And how was that power expressed? How was it used? Authoritatively or from an authoritarian perspective? And it's so easy then to morph into that parenting style, how we were parented, into how we coach. Because it's about power and getting people to do something that has less power than us to act a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
And so then, how have you been coached? Especially, what have been your paradigms, your models of coaching? And I would say, okay, what for you? You look at all these different coaches, all these different paradigms. Look at all these different coaching styles. What worked for you? What didn't work for you?
Yeah.
Parenting, okay, what worked for you? What didn't work for you? And it's trial and error too.
Yeah.
So tell the coaches, you don't have to be perfect. You have to be good enough, but not perfect.
Mm-hmm. And perfect's impossible,
It's impossible.
especially in sport. There's so much luck.
Yeah. Yes,
And
it is.
refs.
Yes,
Referees
it
are the
is.
worst.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I've been to a few games where I'm like, what were you thinking?
Yeah.
Change your prescriptions.
Yeah.
You missed that call, dude.
Yeah. When the crowd turns on you, that's something else.
Yeah, I've booed a ref a time or two. So
Yes. So then what's the perspective with the lighthouse?
the thing of a
Approach.
lighthouse is it's always reliable. It's always there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a guide. It's a guide. It's a guide it's oftentimes a guide during darkness, uncertainty, fear. Helps you see. Helps you point out, okay, here's the shoreline, here are the rocks, but it's on you.
Boundaries.
You're going to have to navigate it.
Yeah.
I can help you see where you need to go, but unlike that lawnmower, I love that image, the lawnmower, but the lighthouse would say, here are your obstacles. How are you going to manage this? And I'm here for help, for advice, because I'm older than you. I've been on the block a time or two, but I can't do it for you. And maybe you need to bump into a rock. Maybe you need to lose a game. to fall down.
Yeah.
I think so much of coaching is teaching players how to lose.
Big time. So then we're redirecting that.
Yes. We will never go through life undefeated. Ever. In anything. So how do you lose?
Yeah, that's a powerful one. I had the opportunity to interview Angela Duckworth, which was awesome. And then she's the author of Grit, the book. If you haven't read it, I'm talking to the audience here, go for it. And then the challenge she had as a parent, and then getting into being a vulnerable, that she knew all this research that she wanted to still put these challenges in front of her kids, or life put those challenges in front of her kids, and then just sit back and allow them to fail, but then be there in the supportive sense.
Yeah. Letting somebody fail. That's hard. Of course, then I can only imagine if you're a coach, if they fail, is that going to get you in trouble by your superiors?
Or the parents that then jump after you, which has happened, literally.
I can imagine.
Yeah, I was talking to a coach this morning at one of his previous high schools where a parent told him to this is the coach, meet me in the parking lot, like to fight him. And he's like, okay.
No.
Yeah, this is in North Austin. This is where you're reigning over there.
So the dad was going to fight the coach.
Yeah.
Okay, what in the world is that dad thinking? And what's he modeling?
With that's what is important to me. A lot of the behaviors.
Well, it's illegal and it's an assault. I mean,
that's what I told the coach. I'm like, go take a punch and get a lawsuit.
Retirement.
Yeah. But then this is the importance of where a coach, in my mind, you're the last line of defense, because they know what they're getting at home, and you can see a lot of those behaviors unfold.
Yeah.
And you may be the last line of defense, and then if we're working in the 70-30 perspective, I'm going to give everything I have to aim to help bolster that 30% of good behaviors that the kid holds on to.
Mm-hmm.
So then when they do go to college, they do join the military or whatever is next, when authority is now my livelihood is responsible for my behaviors, they can lean into a lesson that coach told them versus seeing fitness, hard work, sports, athletics as a negative.
I'm thinking right now, I played tennis when I was yay high to high school, and I quit because of my knees. All that running, twisting, stopping, just my knees were done. I was off the court for decades, and now a friend of mine got me back on the court. At my age now, I'm much more comfortable saying "nice shot." I'm not chasing that thing.
I thought you were going to say pickleball.
Oh no, absolutely not. Any pickleball lovers? I'm sorry. Not pickleball. I'm a purist tennis. I never played pickleball.
Oh wow.
I'm really tempted. I've been asked to. I'm like going. I just no. So
just bring your tennis racket.
Well, so a friend of mine said, he told me, he said, Brad, you play suck. I said, my fear is I probably would suck it. I will knock the hell out of the ball. I said, I'm used to having to, get a ball over a much bigger space. I said, that's not my dick. I did, bam, knock the hell out of it. But where's I going with this?
Your youth.
So I remember when I was playing in high school, and I would play in doubles, and I went to the net to volley, and it was a great setup. I was going to just bam. Well, when I got to the net, I stopped, but my knees didn't. They buckled. And so I remember hobbling off the court to the coach, saying, I can't do this anymore. And the way he engaged me was very supportive. He said, okay, Brad, just go over and sit down. You're good. Wasn't get your butt back out there. It was, okay, you're good. He trusted me to know that, okay, this is your body, dude. You're in your body, not me. So your knees are killing you. He knew that I had knee issues. But that was probably one of the last times I played tennis. And the way he allowed me to just go sit on the sideline and just say, okay, I'm done. It wasn't shaming. He was very gentle.
Yeah.
Now, I didn't want to play in college, but I wasn't ready to stop either. I've been playing since I was, yay high. Um, but it's how he engaged me.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I played t-ball as a kid, even younger than high school, how the different coaches would engage us.
Yeah.
And then I coached t-ball with my brother, who's also a therapist, um, and we had a great time. But there was one dad in the group that was all about, performance. These were like 5, 6, 7-year-old kids.
Yeah.
T-ball. And so you think of what kind of environment, go back to the environment piece, is that kid growing up in with regards to sport. And so, yeah, parents play a huge role in how their kid is going to relate to a sport.
Yeah.
And if if you as a mom or dad, you're more invested than your kid, that's on you, not your kid. Then you're enmeshed.
Mm-hmm.
You're over bonded around this sport. And so this is about you getting your needs met through your kid's sport. And I would say kind of rewind it, pull it back and go, what's going on there?
Yeah.
Your kid's. And it's easy for parents who maybe they were athletes or like me, they had their career cut short because of injury or they got cut from a team and to live vicariously through their kid.
Mm-hmm.
And the kid is going to push back.
At some point.
At some point, will push back. Because now you're in your child's physical, psychological space.
Yeah. And the sports don't last forever. Yeah. Your competition window closes.
Yeah.
But family's always family.
And I always talk to parents and say, you know what, if your kid didn't do well, whatever they did, a meet, game, whatever, say, did you have fun? Did you have fun? Or did you do better this game than you did last time?
Mm-hmm. That car ride home is vital. The conversation should start and then stay centered around, I loved watching you play. Because the parents now, if they're in that authoritative position and they start to say, hey, Coach Mack doesn't know what the hell he's doing.
Authoritarian position.
Why is he playing Jimmy over you? You're better than Jimmy. Now that kid, he internalizes that, and Jimmy becomes an enemy. So cancers are built on teams. This is my bias from that car ride home, because I've seen it eat up high school programs that I've been a part of. Again, we got 4 hours with these kids a week, and then just seen teams crumble beneath us, despite of our arm wrestling and willpower to stay positive and do everything right. If that car ride home is toxic, it seeps into an effective coaching environment. And there's a presentation series out there that I got switched on to. There's Coach Justin Kavanaugh, so I want to name drop him for the listeners. And the series that he gave to me is called The Fish is Not Sick, the Water's Dirty. So it's a business environment presentation.
The fish is not sick, the water's dirty.
Yeah, I'll take a picture and send it to you. I got it in the office here. So then it's a DVD series. It's not a book. It should be a book. It's awesome. But then to Coach Kavanaugh's point, environment's everything. So then these fish, you have the opportunity as a youth athlete to change your environment. We have home, we got school, and we got sports. The 4 hours with me are going to be the greatest 4 hours that you have every week, I guarantee it. So that way you do get a breath of fresh air, some fresh water.
Kind of filter the water.
To then.
So you're the filter.
Yeah, that's the aim.
Yeah.
So I can still come in and be very direct and raise expectations, but it is through love. It's not me vicariously living through them.
It's through in respect.
Yeah.
Kids want to be respected. End of the day, so when I was in grad school, getting trained to work with children, it all comes down to safety. Mm-hmm. Kids want to feel safe. And one way to convey this is a safe place, like an emotional, obviously physical safety, but also emotional safety is trust. Have you earned that kid's trust? And have you earned that kid's respect?
Mm-hmm.
And respect is, and this is where I think more authoritarian style of parenting is, you need to respect me. Like, well, look at you. Why would your daughter or son respect you? Because you're acting very disrespectfully.
Yeah.
And so you can give the feedback, you can give the discipline to shape the behavior in a way that's respectful, that conveys that you're trustworthy, and all that lays the foundation for, yeah, this is a safe place to be you, to learn, to grow, and yet to make mistakes.
Mm-hmm. So that, yeah, and how I view movement and behavior, just finding a connection in there. So a coach needs to define the expectation for my actions, my behavior, showing up on time, etc., how I treat, if I'm a senior, how I treat freshmen, define everything. So then I
The
can
rules of the tribe.
hold them accountable.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I need to define model is the next phase. I
Yes.
need to model all that.
Yes. Yes. So you can, as a coach, convey the expectations.
Mm-hmm.
You remember this tribe, this is what's expected of you in this tribe.
Yeah. And what is not a part of my vocabulary, leaning into not again, just for humor here, where it's the do as I say, not as I do. Won't ever say that. I'll own a mistake if I do an action or a skill, pick up the ball one-handed, for my instance, and then frame that. Or if there's a miscommunication between coaches, if I'm on the other end and I say one thing and then we come together and then what I told them to do was different from what the head coach has to say, I need to own that and tell them, hey, I meant this, and then talk to the coach so we're clear there.
Yeah.
Versus get the defensive.
Right.
I've just been a part of enough teams where head coach's word, like it's not gonna hurt my ego to change how I coach something.
And there's a difference between y'all to get that worked out in private, away from the eyes of the kids.
Yeah, because I don't want to see them fighting. And then,
I know.
yeah, so my parents are divorced, but then I would see coaches infighting as a part of a team or an assistant coach. And I'm like, I'm having Vietnam flashbacks. Why am I sweating right now? Just seeing the authoritative figures fight, and I'm caught in the middle as either an assistant coach or even an athlete at times.
Well, and then if you've got, say, a kid who has been parented by more authoritarian parents, they may play that out on the team as well.
And that's so. This is a revelation again. Spending the past year with the social emotional development of kids, where I would reflect on if I had a high schooler years ago in coaching who would get in fights, or college athletes that would show up drunk to practice, and seeing all these different behaviors, I would hold them accountable and like, what's wrong with this? These are problems.
Yeah.
What's
wrong with you?
I would label them.
Yeah.
Then versus
problem.
Yeah, at 7 years old, elementary schools start to work in team building and group projects and different things in PE that are team related. Well, they're starting to learn the interpersonal skills by working together at that 7, 8, 9. So I'm like, oh man, during that period, they had something come up, second, third, fourth grade.
Yeah, and there are consequences to behave. Someone's showing up drunk to practice. Set your butt down, dude.
Yeah.
There are consequences. You can also be curious about it. What's going on?
So
consequences, absolutely.
As a college coach, I saw him as a problem where I should have, this is in my, I think, second year coaching college, where I should have been curious versus like going against him.
Yeah, I mean, you can discipline is about shaping behavior and incorporating consequences, but then also being curious, what's going on? Is this out of character for you, or you've done this a few times? What's going on? Versus, what the hell are you thinking? What's wrong with you?
Yeah, that's how I did it, which I wouldn't handle that now.
For you?
I mean, he finished. He was a senior. He just wasn't getting his respect and playing time that he deserved, kind of thing.
Kind of entitled?
I don't know. Because he had it. It was him and his brother on the team. But then both of them now have excommunicated themselves from any alumni events, and it's like the pro. yeah, coach always did me wrong kind of thing.
Victim.
Both of them, both brothers. So yeah, my brother-in-law, he coached me, and so I'm spending a lot of time with the family, and then like that family, those two brothers, it always comes up like, what's going on with it? So I've learned to like reframe and think about it in a
Reframe is a big word.
Yeah.
It's a crucial concept.
But
Reframe it.
yeah, that I mean, the first few years of coaching career, there's so many moments where I'm like, it just brings me stress because now I would handle it differently, but I needed those moments to help.
And I'm always curious, if I work with a coach, what got you into this?
Oh, me? Well, the coach, so yeah, parents are split. I already covered that. But then for me, sports was the babysitter because my mom in middle school, she was a nurse. I had to walk to the hospital, basically sit there after school as a babysitter until she got off work. So I'm playing football and I'm lifting weights because sitting in a waiting room sucks. So now part of the team. And then, yeah, sticking with that, where then she's working, dad's 45 minutes away. Okay, well then football expands to track. Track expands to lacrosse. So now I'm 3 seasons in and I don't have to go home. It's just team and sports. But then again, transition periods from JV to varsity are I've told this story on the podcast before, but effectively our high school coaches, my junior class, they decided to take the sophomores, put them on varsity football so they could elicit hope to the boosters to maintain their position as coach. So then on my junior class, we're like, what the hell? We were winners. We were leaders in our minds. We had a pretty good mindset. We're still a tight-knit group. So then we started a lacrosse team just to go win and do our own thing. So that was the introduction to that sport. So then held on to lacrosse forever because I went to play in college, coached college, and then now basically for pennies for my time, coach high school to be that beacon. Because our high school coach, awesome man, his name's also Kavanaugh. He basically volunteered his time because he loved the sport. So it's aim to connect because it was just good people doing good things for me. And then, coaches that made a decision on my performance, but there were still other people outside to be the male role model, etc.
You use a crucial word, beacon.
Yeah.
Lighthouse.
There you go. It's all connected. So final components of the questions that I have. This is connected to social media and then the chatter, the negative.
Well, it's just like Barkley. I mean, there was no social media, but there was definitely media. It just wasn't as relevant as it wasn't just so quick. Right now, I had to explain to me here recently, or maybe I read this somewhere, where it's like now athletes have access to all the Monday morning water cooler talk across the country. So you have access to all those people who gather at the water cooler and gripe, complain about the quarterback or the whoever it was, the pitcher, the catcher.
Yeah.
Now, because of social media, you have access to all those conversations. And so it is a double-edged sword. And so there are a lot of NIL folks, companies that want an athlete to get on social media. And so like if you have to get on social media, get on it and then get off the thing.
Yeah.
Use it very judiciously. And then I like what Dr. J said, is this true? Now, the more time you spend on it, you're going to start comparing. And 9 times out of 10, we start comparing up.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, just do what you have to do. Use it as a tool. And then do what you have to do on social media and then set aside. But if you start down that rabbit hole and you start reading this story and this story and this story and that post, again, you're pouring gas on a fire that could consume you.
Yeah.
Mentally. That mindset begins to melt. And then all these voices, people you don't even know. I mean, one, is it true? And do you know this person?
No.
Right.
More often than not.
Right. Exactly. So I think use it very judiciously.
Yeah.
So, and just again, is it true? And do you know this person? And what is your purpose? I say, what is the purpose of why are you using social media? How's it helpful?
That's an important
How's it
question.
helpful? If it was like a tool, how is it helpful?
Mm-hmm. And then there is dangers again to create a cancer within the team because there maybe somebody who's a backup, and then social media comes in and says, "Hey, you need to be in there, etc." And now you start to hold resentment against your who should be
That's
your
where
buddy.
coaches come in.
Well, sometimes those players, and I've seen just through social media where they're filming coaches on team buses, like holding kids accountable. They're doing it with some authoritative words, some passion.
Authority can be very firm. You bet,
Yeah.
direct.
But then the kid is sneaking behind the bus filming this, and then guess that coach is fired, unfortunately, where he's just pouring in and being passionate after a loss. So little things like that happen, unfortunately.
Passion. I appreciate passion. It's, you're throwing a lamp. You're passionate.
Yeah.
You're passionate, but is it constructive? Is your passion constructive or destructive? Authoritative, you can be direct, firm, strong, but is it coming from a place of respect too?
Mm-hmm.
And if someone's giving me direct feedback, it's strong, it's firm. If I trust them, if they have my best interest, then I'm gonna listen to it.
Mm-hmm.
If they're just pissed off at me and they're punishing me, I'm not going.
Yeah. It's context is king there.
Yeah, and that depends on our relationship.
Yeah. And the coach has an opportunity to lose their respect and trust in that moment as well.
Because I want a coach to be able to be, if he or she needs to be firm, yes, be firm.
Mm-hmm.
But do you have the relationship with that player where your firmness, your directness, you're trying to discipline them and shape them? Do you have a container?
Yeah.
And the relationship is that container. And that container is comprised of trust, respect. Are you acting respectfully, even firmly? Are you being respectful? And do they trust you? Do they trust you as a coach that you've got their back? That you're invested in them.
Mm-hmm.
That this team, it wouldn't be the same without you. And I'm invested in you.
Can the kid be healthily transitioned from authoritative to the the authentic approach to coaching here? So then, because I've also had kids in the past that dual sport athletes, so where football is heavy in the shame based motivation. Now they transitioned to the lacrosse. At least the staff we had was more build up. So then we would try to build them up, and they're like, not be harder on us. It was like, tell us we're like speak negatively to us.
Tell us we suck.
Tell us we suck. That's going to get us motivated. It's like, no, I'm not going to reinforce what you're saying here. So like, if a kid believes that they need to be MF'd, like how do you reframe? Dude, that's unhealthy. How do we transition away from a shame based?
I'd be curious, what about this works? What about being told you suck works? Tell me more about that. So lean into it. I'm not going to do it necessarily, but I'm kind of curious, why does this work?
Yeah, I don't recall if we dug. It was
I'd
just
be curious, what about being yelled at? Now, I mean, I'm wondering too, being a therapist, is that what he gets at home?
I don't know.
Oh, the damn grass, it's hurt, I mean, is it familiar to him? I'd be kind of curious, what is that? What about that is motivating? Because I have many, many more athletes who that demoralizes.
Yeah.
Many more.
Yeah, it's potentially that they were winning within football, and where we're looking for motivation and success on
Okay.
a different
So
sport.
have they coupled getting shamed with victory. So the only way I can win is be shamed.
Potentially. That's how they viewed it. Yeah.
It makes me think of a battered wife, battered wife syndrome. They go from one husband to the next, who's, if you tell me I'm ugly, you love me. And so that'd be kind of curious of decoupling that from being shamed and bullied to victory. Because they think, okay, the coach shames me, bullies me, yells, tells me I'm suck, but I'm winning. I said, well, do you think you could win in being coached a different way? And what about this works? What about that works? That's what I'm curious about.
Yeah. And a big mission of mine in the podcast and conversations like this is to just break the stereotype where sports teach lessons.
Yeah, and what also if this kid here who's getting bullied by the coach, shamed, is that familiar to him?
Yeah.
Maybe dad and mom are that way.
Again, yeah.
It's familiar.
I
get it.
4 hours a week. So it's tough.
Yeah. And you're just planting seeds. You're just planting seeds.
Mm-hmm.
When I was doing more child therapy in my career, I would do child therapy and for an hour, 45 minutes to an hour. They come right back. They seem to be getting it and getting better. And they come back the next week because after mom and dad had a chance to influence them, they're right back to where they were. All you can do is just plant seeds.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if there's safety issues, you have to get the authorities involved. Obviously, not would have to do that, but it's just shift just enough to where once they leave the house, they can stay on that path. Because if you just shift, it doesn't take much of a shift at all. But in time, where does that line end had it not shifted? It's vastly different. It's just a little shift now.
Yeah.
But 3 years, 5 years from now, it is vastly different.
Yeah, I like that approach. You had a quote you wanted to share. I wanted to make sure.
No, it's just about it was about conflict, and we went to conflict. What is first? I like this quote. It's a Journal of Applied Sports Psychology, talking about conflict between like team captains and a star player. I like this quote on conflict. It's a dynamic process that occurs between interdependent parties as they experience negative emotional reactions to perceived disagreements and interference with the attainment of their goals. That's the last piece is what I really like, the interference with the attainment of their goals. So two players are in conflict. They're perceiving each other as getting in the way of my goal.
Mm-hmm.
And so looking at, again, about perspective too, understanding what each of their perspective is. And because I'm sure you have team members who have conflict.
Yep.
But what is their perspective, and how do they perceive? I've never really seen the definition of conflict put that way. I really like that. Interference with the attainment of their goals. So if I'm in conflict with you, how am I perceiving you as getting in the way of my goals? And how do you perceive me getting in your way of your goals? So first of all, what are our goals?
Right.
And how am I perceiving you getting in my way?
Playing time.
Okay.
Or if we're offensive line together, if I'm center and you're guard, you keep messing up and making me look bad, or I have to overcome your poor play. I have to work harder because you suck.
And then we reframe it. Yeah, right. You're right. I suck.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the whole part about, in the way of the goals, that's what, I'm thinking that just in relationships, whether it's a team, whether it's a family, it's you're in my way.
Mm-hmm.
You're in my way. Get out of my way.
Yeah.
And that's pretty charged.
Yeah, there's a lot there too. If we're talking about starters and backups as well. So now if I'm a starter and then I feel you like breathing down my neck, then I'm in a position where I start to make mistakes and my performance goes down.
But if you're playing pickleball, we'll never have conflict because I don't play pickleball.
Well, there you go. So awesome conversation. Where can people learn more from you or
You can go to my website. You can just Google Brad Kennington.
Austin Sports
Behavioral
BH.
health. Yeah, I've also written some articles for Austin Fit magazine, different topics: eating disorders, body image, endurance, how to bounce back after an injury.
All important
Oh,
aspects.
you
This, yeah, I'm grateful. Thanks for driving out.
oh, my pleasure.
Excellent conversation. So shout out to Cody Gold for our introduction.
Oh, Cody,
Got to give him some props here. And
because Cody's how I know you.
yes, so
Chris or Tex?
well, it depends
Okay.
where we are.
Okay.
If I'm anywhere in the world outside of Texas, then
Okay.
Tex. So brand is important.
Okay.
when
I'm
you're
with you. I'm with you.
building out
I was
there.
in politics, bro. I get it. I get it.
Oh yeah.
I get it.
So
Branding's important.
yeah, there's too many Chris's out there. But
Okay. All right, Tex.
cool.
Okay.
All right. Appreciate you,
My
man.
pleasure.
Thanks for
You
joining.
bet.
Does it for
Thanks,
another
guys.
episode. Bye.
Bye.
And theme.